Hi, and welcome to another episode of JAMUCATE. This is the second episode. The last time we discussed parish native names with you. Today, we're looking at the cities. We're discussing the city or town native names. Now, if you live in one of these cities or towns, we want you to know the name you're called or the title you're called regarding to whichever city or town you're from, or where do you have a native connection. So as you already know, there are 14 parishes in Jamaica, soon to be 15, but today we're looking at the 14 that exists. Now, we'll be looking at the most influential city or town in each parish, regardless of where is the capital. We'll be starting things off in St. Catherine and ends in Kingston and St. Andrew. So for the parish of St. Catherine, we're looking at Portmore, Spanish Town, and Old Harbour. For Clarendon, we'll be looking at Maypen and Chapelton. For Manchester, Mandeville, and Christiana. For St. Elizabeth, Santa Cruz, and Black River. For Westmoreland, Savannah Lamar, and Negril. For Hanover, Lucy. For St. James, Montego Bay. For Trelawney, Falmouth. For St. Anne, Ocho Rios, and Brownstown. And also St. Anne's Bay. For St. Mary, Port Maria, and Onoto Bay. For Portland, Port Antonio. For St. Thomas, Morant Bay and Yalas. And for Kingston, Kingston City. And that goes for St. Andrew too. So Kingston and St. Andrew. Kingston City. Now, so we kick things off in St. Catherine. If you are a native of Spanish Town, you are called a Spanishtonian. If you live in Old Harbour, you're called an Harbourite. If you're a native of Portmore, you're called a Portmorean. For Clarendon, if you're a native of Maypen, you're called a Maypenite. If you're a native of Chapelton, you are called a Chapeltonian. For Manchester, if you live in Mandeville, you are called a Mandeviller. If you're a native of Christiana, you are called a Christianite. For St. Elizabeth, if you're a native of Santa Cruz, you are called a Santa Cruiser. If you're a native of Junction, you are called a Junctionite. For Westmoreland, if you are a native of Savannah Lamar, you are called a Savlamarian. If you're a native of Negril, you're called a Negrilite. For Hanover, if you're a native of Lucy, you're called a Lucian. For St. James, if you live in the city of Montego Bay, you're called a Montegonian. For Trelawney, if you live or a native of Falmouth, you're called a Falmouthan. For St. Anne, if you live in Ocho Rios or is a native of Ocho Rios, you're called a Riosite. If you live in St. Anne's Bay, you're called an Annite, just like the parish. If you live in Brownstown, you're called a Brownstonian. For St. Mary, if you live in Port Maria, you're called a Port Marian. If you live in Onoto Bay, you're called an Onotan. For Portland, if you live in Port Antonio, you're called an Antonian. For St. Thomas, if you are a native of Morant Bay, you're called a Morantite. If you are a native of Yalas, you're called a Yalasite. And for Kingston and St. Andrew, if you live in the city of Kingston, you're a Kingstonian, just like the parish. So I know it must have been hard for most of us, it was for me, to figure out outside of Kingston and Montego Bay, to figure out what you're called in regards to your city. It was so hard. If they ask you, okay, if you're from Maypen, they say, okay, the Maypen man. Or if you're from Mandeville, they say the Mandeviller. Well, Mandeville is not so bad. But it's really been hard for these smaller cities in Jamaica. We all know what a person of Kingston is called. He's called a Kingstonian. We all know what a person of Montego Bay is called. He's called a Montegonian. But for the other cities, it's really been hard. So there, I make it easier for you. So now you know. So Mr. Maypen man, the next time they ask you where you're from, say I'm a Maypenite. say I'm a Mandeviller. Or if you're from Sav, a Savamarian. Let us know in the comment section what you think. Which one of these cities are you from? And where them always call you? And let us know. Don't forget to also like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Yeah. This has been another episode of JAMUCATE. Thanks for watching.
Wait.